Amber Eyes, Thunder Within. Chapter 2, Deja Vu. The sun is shining joyfully in the sky while the birds sing their happy songs. The grass is a lush green, as are the trees. One particular tree gives shade to a young pair, laughing and enjoying each other's company. It's Claire and Jake. Jake is sitting next to Claire, carefree in a blue t-shirt and jeans, while Claire is in a yellow summer dress. They are laughing and joking, like they have known each other for years. Claire begins to feel the familiarity of Jake again. His eyes, his smile, his laugh, his humour, everything about him is so familiar. It is home. He is home. Just then he turns and looks at her, smiling. As he speaks, his voice takes on that of her best friend Roxy. "Ooh, you must be having a really good dream. Look at that smile." Just then, Claire gets shot back into the waking world. She forces her eyes open and squints, so all two bright surroundings come into focus. Roxy is standing at the side of her bed, grinning at her blue eyes sparkling. "Roxy, what are you doing here? How did you get into my apartment?" Claire asks groggily. "Well," Roxy pauses and jumps next to Claire on her bed. "I have this amazing ability to transport from place to place whenever I want to," she says, still grinning. "Actually, I know where you hide your spare key," Roxy adds, smoothing her black shoulder-length hair back. Claire gives Roxy a short, groggy laugh. "So what were you dreaming about that put such a smile on your face?" Roxy asked, fully amused and thoroughly enjoying teasing Claire. "Nothing," Claire answers, embarrassed, and hides her head under the covers. "Come on, Claire. You can't hide from me. I'm like the monster under your bed. I will always find you no matter where you hide," Roxy says in an exaggerated scare-mock voice. Claire laughed and answered, "Fine, but only if you make me some coffee first. You know where everything is." "Done," Roxy said excitedly and jumped up, rushing off to the kitchen. "Make it extra strong. I'm going to need it, seeing as you woke me up so early on a Sunday morning," Claire shouted to Roxy from the bedroom. "Oh, come on, Claire. It's a beautiful day. Why wouldn't you want to be awake right now?" Roxy shouted back happily. Claire snorts to herself. "Besides," Roxy continues, "you promised me you'd come with me to the park today when I walk Jimmy." Jimmy is Roxy's lovable black Great Dane with a white chest. He is the light of her life. She got him from a pet store just before they cropped his ears, thankfully. Roxy entered Claire's bedroom with her coffee. "Drink up, we leave in an hour," Roxy said sternly. Claire rolled her eyes as she took the coffee that Roxy handed to her. The air is cool and fresh on this Sunday morning at the park. There are birds chirping happily here and there, but mostly drowned out by the sound of Jimmy's contented panting as he walks at Roxy's side. "So," said Roxy, "you're still supposed to tell me what put such a huge smile on your face this morning." Claire couldn't stop the smile from spreading over her face again. I kind of met someone," Claire answered, staring at the ground shyly. "What? What's his name? Where did you meet him? What does he do? When did this happen?" Roxy asked overexcitedly without taking a breath. "Whoa, slow down. We haven't even been on our date yet," Claire said, not thinking as she realized she'd blabbed. Roxy looked as if she was about to burst with excitement. "He asked you on a date?" "Yes, shh, relax, Roxy. You're doing that shouting thing you do when you get excited," said Claire, looking around to make sure Roxy's shouting hadn't disrupted any of the people in the park. "Sorry," Roxy said, composing herself, then whispered, "He asked you out on a date?" Claire half laughed. "Yes, Monday after work. I'm meeting him at the bookstore, Golden Books. That's where we met, by the way. And we're going to have coffee at the cafe around the corner from the bookstore." "Well, who is he? What's he like?" Roxy asked excitedly. "His name is Jake. He's tall, has longish sandy brown hair, crystal blue eyes, and when he smiles I have to consciously plant my feet on the ground so I don't fall over," Claire said, realizing she was daydreaming and looking at Roxy, who was staring at her with a huge grin on her face. "What? Oh, shut up," Claire said, embarrassed, and began to blush as she lightly shoved Roxy. Roxy laughed. "How old is he?" 24. "Oh, I haven't told you the best part. He's just as passionate about horses as I am," said Claire. "You know that horse rescue I started volunteering at? His aunt owns it. He's going to take it over when she retires, but it's the strangest thing. It feels like I've known him from somewhere, like I've met him before, long ago. He's just so familiar, Claire said, trailing off in thought. You've probably seen him around before, Roxy said, interrupting Claire's thoughts. Probably, Claire agreed, though feeling something else was going on. She could feel it. As eager as she was to see him again, she couldn't seem to shake the feeling that something sinister was going on. The next day at work, Claire glanced at the clock every 30 seconds. 20 minutes to go before she finishes work. She could feel the butterflies in her stomach, followed by the nerves. Her face must have given away how she was feeling, because one of her older colleagues, Susan, looked at her with slight concern. Claire relaxed slightly and gave Susan a warm smile. Susan then returned to her computer. Susan had been working at this advertising company for 12 years. Claire, on the other hand, had been working there only a year. It was decent salary and the hours were very reasonable, 8 to 4, Monday to Friday. She really enjoyed working there and the people were very nice. Another few minutes passed and time draws nearer to her coffee date with Jake. Claire feels her stomach knot up again. "What's bothering you, my dear?" asks Susan, and Claire jumps in shock. She then laughs nervously and turns her face to Susan, who suddenly appeared behind her. "Nothing. I have a coffee date after work and I'm a little nervous, that's all," answers Claire. Susan smiles warmly and puts her hands on Claire's shoulder. "Don't stress about it. You're still young and have many more of these to come. Not like you're going to marry this man." Claire smiles nervously and decides to confide in Susan, seeing as there's no one else to talk to before she has to leave in a few minutes. "It's just that I really do like this guy. Feels like I've known him forever, or like we've met before. He just seems so familiar," says Claire. For a moment, Claire thinks she sees Susan's face turn dark. Then it passes faster than it appeared, and Susan replies, "Maybe you've seen him around before." "I'm not so sure," says Claire, "and I can't shake this feeling that something terrible is in the process of starting." "Something is wrong," says Claire. Susan's grip on Claire's shoulders becomes uncomfortable as she says to Claire, "You ought not to be thinking of such things, dear. I'm sure you're imagining things." Susan's eyes seem to have a deep red glimmer and cut into Claire with a look of controlled insanity that chills Claire deep inside. For a second she panics and she feels the bad feeling rise up again, and then she quickly covers the panic with a smile she hopes is convincing and replies, "You're probably right." Slowly but surely, Susan loosens her grip and the insane look in her eyes fades. Yet Claire can still see a slight hint of it. A voice in Claire's head warns her to leave as soon as possible. With controlled movement, Claire starts towards the door, not wanting to let Susan know she spooked her. "Well, I'd better get going. See you tomorrow, Susan. Thanks for the talk." She gets to the door and turns to wave at Susan, who hasn't moved from the spot where she had gripped Claire. She's just standing there, unmoving, staring at Claire, and following her every move with her reddish-brown eyes. Susan hears the voice again. "Get out of there." She waves quickly and walks out the door. As she gets out of eyesight, she begins running. Claire gets to the coffee shop around 4:15 p.m. She spots Jake sitting at a table next to the window, and suddenly all is forgotten. He smiles at her and waves. She walks over to join him. "You're actually here on time," she says, smiling. "Well, I have to make a good impression now, don't I?" replies Jake, smiling widely. Claire laughs and sits down opposite him. Just then the waitress appears beside them. "What can I get you?" she asks warmly. She has blue eyes, a fresh face, and her straight ginger hair is tied straight back in a ponytail. She's about 19 years old, very pretty. If it were in medieval times, Claire would picture her as some Celtic warrior princess. But in this day and age, we've all resorted to working to earn our so-called golden treasure, Claire thinks. "I will just get a regular coffee, please," says Jake. "Yeah, me too," says Claire and smiles at the waitress. The waitress smiles back warmly, but with a faraway look in her eyes, as if she was thinking the same thing Claire was a minute ago. She then leaves to get their coffee, and Claire returns her gaze to Jake, who is gazing at her as if intrigued. He then smiles and looks down at his hands to try and cover up the fact that he was staring. Claire smiles to herself. "So I take it you got my message all right?" said Jake, looking up at Claire again. "Yes, I did, thank you," Claire replies with a huge smile on her face. She had stopped at the bookstore first to meet there like they had planned. She walked in and had looked around trying to spot him when one of the older ladies that worked there approached her. The guy with the lucky horse told me to tell you, or as he called you, the blonde-haired, green-eyed angel, that he was waiting for you at the cafe round the corner, she said, looking a little unsure. Claire had laughed wholeheartedly and thanked the woman. The woman had just looked relieved that she had given the message to the right blonde-haired, green-eyed girl. Claire smiled, remembering this. Well, I'm glad I could make you smile, said Jake, grinning. It was very sweet. A little corny, but sweet, Claire says with a light laugh. Jake chuckles. Just then the waitress returns with their coffee. She smiles warmly, places their coffee in front of them, and tells them to enjoy it. As the afternoon proceeds, Jake speaks of his plans for the horse rescue and how he wants to run the place when his aunt retires. Claire listens, then tells Jake about her grandfather and how he was the one who had got her interested in horses when she was younger. Claire can feel the bond between them growing stronger, and the familiarity of him keeps increasing. Just then, as if he can read her mind, he says, I feel like I've known you forever. He's looking at her as if he can see every single aspect she's made up of. Me too, says Claire as she holds his gaze. It feels as if there's a magnet hold between the two of them, which can't be broken. She doesn't want to break it. It feels right. It feels familiar. The way Jake's gaze is locked on hers tells her that he feels exactly the same. His gaze then turns troubled. The look in his eyes reminds Claire of Susan's odd and alarming reaction earlier, and she too becomes troubled. The sinister feeling returns. She breaks the gaze and looks into her empty coffee mug. Then her watch catches her eye. It is 4:50 p.m. Oh wow, time flew. I have to meet my best friend Roxy at her work in 20 minutes, says Claire. Jake then looks down at his watch and is a little surprised by the time. I'd better get going, says Claire. I can give you a lift, offers Jake. No, that's okay, replies Claire, standing up. It's 2 blocks from here. I'll walk right through the park, and the boutique where she works is right opposite it. It's quite a nice walk. All right then, he says, smiling, and stands up with Claire, placing money on the table for the coffee. I hope we can do this again soon, Jake says, taking Claire's hand gently. A bolt of electricity runs through Claire's hand and arm from the physical connection, leaving her hand and arm tingling. It's clear that Jake felt it too, because he takes a step back in surprise and lets go of her hand to look at his own in search of a logical cause for what just happened. He stares at his hand for a moment, then looks up at Claire and back down at his hand again. Did you feel that? He asks, unsure of himself, like he doesn't want to sound crazy. Yeah, I did, Claire answers, surprised and intrigued as the tingling begins to fade. Jake looks from his hand back at Claire, smiling this time, his eyes still a little wide with shock. He laughs, shaking his head in disbelief, then drops his arm to his side. Well, I will see you around. Hopefully at the rescue as well, he says, smiling. Of course, Claire replies, and then she turns and leaves the cafe with the tingling in her arm still slightly present.